And there we are. And Patty, I'm going to do that so that we can see you a little better. We can see your pretty face there. Okay. And if you guys are ready, I am ready, and we will go. All right. Here we go. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Patty Cohen of Pacific Union International. Both Mark Humph and Nam Phan are off today. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during this show. And that certificate is not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. And don't forget that tanning certificate is worth over $100. It's a nice little prize. Today's trivia theme is just general trivia. We're going to try to stump everybody here. Our special guest today is Tom Santamorena to discuss various insurance, specifically business insurance. Tom, welcome to The Best of Investing.
Great to be here.
All right. So now I know your main specialty is workers' comp. All right. If there are employers out there who are listening, what advice would you give them specifically about workers' comp right now?
It's very complicated, and you really need to consult with an expert in the area that knows the ins and outs and the ways to get the best coverage and to drive your costs down.
Okay, which would be, I mean, like, I know as an employer myself with this one business, we've had issues with regard to how certain employees are classified. How does one get around that, or what can you do as an employer?
I think first you just need to understand the rules and the regulations and how the game works,
okay,
and make sure you take full advantage of it, as in pre-hiring steps, drug testing, background checks, DMV checks on employees. If you are able to do that and you share that with the carriers, you'll probably get a discounted rate. That's on the front end.
Okay.
And then if you do have a claim, there's ways to mitigate it and drive your costs down, get your employees back to work quicker and more cost effectively.
Give us an example of how you can get an employee to come back to work.
It's really manage the claim from the get-go.
Okay.
Don't let it drag on. You have to really educate your employees and your managers. If someone's injured, they need to report it right away.
Okay.
They need to seek immediate medical treatment.
Yeah.
And then take charge of the situation at that point. Don't let them maringer.
Yeah.
And if there's light duty available, do that. You just don't want them to lay out of work very long. Then they get the taste of the easy life, and they malinger.
And unfortunately, stupidity expense. It's a no fault type of situation, right?
Well, that's the issue with workers' comp insurance. It's fully funded. There's no deductible. The employee doesn't have to pay anything. They lay out, get full medical treatment, and the more medical treatment they get, the worse the injury looks, the longer they could lay out and draw paychecks.
A question though I have is, what if you specifically, let's say you have an employee who is a little bit more accident prone, and so you specifically tell that employee, you are not allowed to carry boxes or do X or anything specific, and you're very specific about what they're not allowed to do on the job because you're concerned. But they do it anyway, and they get hurt on the job. What happens in a situation like that?
Fully compensable. It's on the job. Maybe that's not an employee you'd want to have around. They don't follow instructions.
Yeah, but it may be too late though. You get hit with the claim.
And what if you have it the employer has it in writing that they had this conversation, it's all documented.
Yeah.
They even sign something and says, yes, I won't do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not going to affect the comp claim.
Okay.
It can affect continuing employment, but once they're on the comp claim, you really can't do much at that point.
But then I could just imagine you fire the employee and they say, oh, that's retribution. You're not allowed to fire at that point. So
Careful.
Not only do you have a workers' comp claim, now you have a wrongful termination and hopefully have employment practices liability.
I thought this was going to be fun.
Yeah, I know. So what's the cost for an employer? Like, should every employer have workers' comp?
Well, you have to.
You have to.
I mean,
But a lot of people are misled thinking that they're a contractor. Independent contractor.
Yeah.
So I don't need workers' comp, but you really do, because if they do get hurt, they don't have workers' comp, they're working for you, the comp carrier is still going to come after you for that.
And especially the quote contractor will suddenly say, oh, I was an employee, I wasn't, and then they'll try to prove based on all these, IRS type
Yeah.
regulations or other Department of Labor regulations, right?
But then the independent contractor has another fight with the IRS saying, I thought you said you were, and you're trying to prove that you are.
And
Yeah.
I've seen where the
Yeah.
independent contractor had a handshake agreement with who he was working for,
Yeah.
saying, that's okay, I won't hold you harmless, so
Hold
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And something happens, he goes to the hospital, and then the people treating them ask him what happens.
Yeah. I got her on this job. Yeah.
And they want to go after the workers' comp because it's a lot more lucrative for them to collect on the workers' comp.
Are you talking about the doctors?
The
treating them?
providers, exactly.
See, that's another problem.
Yeah.
You've got to do something about that. That's just crazy stuff. Tell you what, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. We're in the studio here with Tom Santamorena, who's an expert on various, as they call it, P&C, which is property and casualty insurance. I want to make a quick mention here for the Renaissance Indian Wells Resort and Spa, which is a desert oasis for family getaway in the Coachella Valley. It's the perfect place to recharge and relax poolside in the sandy beach area, or send the kids off for a fun day at Camp Oasis. World-class resort features well-appointed guest rooms, 5 restaurants, a rejuvenating spa, plus book your summer or family vacation today and your kids eat free. Check out RENIndianwells.com for details, or call 760-773-4444. Here's our first trivia question. It is, what is Nike's signature symbol called? Remember Michael Jordan with all that kind of...
Same as my earrings.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Okay.
I wore it
All right,
just for that.
Call 888-912-1190. If it's the first caller with the correct answer, you're going to win that tanning certificate. Don't touch that dial. The best of investing. I'll be right back.
I don't remember what that's called right now.
Okay. Yeah, we always remember I have to do 5 seconds of silence before and after.
1-800-ZIP-IT.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's
You know
what
the
I
answer?
think it's called.
Okay. We'll see if you know the answer to it.
Swoosh.
That is
Yeah, very
correct.
good, very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
So I was asking a question generally because I don't think the viewers kind of get what you do and how you can
Yeah,
help
that's
them
good.
and how you make money
Okay.
and how the thing
Yeah,
works.
please.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So you can just explain,
please.
yeah.
Yeah, we always want to help.
Well, I have 2
other-
functions for heads up. I'm an independent insurance broker, so I could shop the insurance, and I'm also a risk management consultant. Go in, analyze your business, and show you ways to decrease your risk.
So yeah, from all insurance everywhere. Yeah. So your clients or anybody that employs someone or
My employees,
has a business.
just any business.
Yeah.
Because there's other coverage, there's cyber liability, which is a big one now.
It's good.
And one thing, it's okay to pound now, but once we get on, you can hear it. So, yeah. For Vern Glenn, I had to put a big towel because he'd like to go bam, bam, bam.
It's passionate.
Yes.
I mean, this is real good. You're. I mean, most people in the Bay Area, not most, but we have a higher percentage in the Bay Area of small business owners.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And they think their homeowner policy is going to protect them, and it doesn't.
And
Okay, yeah,
that's
so yeah,
important
let's
information.
talk about like what
Yeah.
the myths.
Yeah.
That's one of the myths. That's a good one.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, so this is here. So this second segment is a little longer. It's 8 minutes, 28
Do you have
seconds.
that article Mom gave you? Did you print it or anything? Because there's just one part of it that I want to remember what I said. Because I said when blah 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 goes up, something else goes down, or you could just read it to me. I can't remember how I put that.
Yeah, let's see what he had here.
And that part is highlighted.
I don't know. Let's see. I don't.
I was looking for it, I
remember.
can't find it. I don't. You think I'd be able to find it?
Yeah, I don't think I have it handy. Sorry about that. Let's do that. You look good on TV.
Cool.
Okay.
I'll let Leonard know that.
Ready?
Mhm.
Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Patty Cohen and our special guest, Tom Santamorena. The first trivia question was, what is Nike's signature symbol called? And Tom knows the answer. What is it?
It's a swoosh.
Swoosh. That is correct.
Woohoo.
Or the swoosh. You would take either a swoosh or the swoosh. Either one.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, Tom, give us some myths about what people think about workers' comp that, we want to educate the audience.
The big issue is a lot of confusion when it comes to independent contractors.
Mm-hmm.
People think they can hire an independent contractor and they have no liability exposure.
Okay.
But if that independent contractor doesn't carry workers' comp insurance,
Which they probably don't.
then the employer is a statutory employer. And if there is some kind of injury that occurs, they're going to be on the hook and responsible for it.
And interestingly enough, I had a friend of mine told me that he hired somebody just to go on his roof. Now it's not in his business, it was in his home. And the person fell off the roof and sued him.
Wow.
And
that was homeowners insurance, right?
Yeah. And I'm
Still.
wondering if the homeowners insurance would cover that.
Your personal lines do offer some kind of domestic comp coverage.
But even if the person's not licensed?
Even if the person's not licensed, correct?
Okay. So he didn't lose his house because of that.
Correct.
Yeah, because you could hire kids to mow your lawn and
Right.
a foot gets cut off or something crazy.
And it happens.
Yeah. And then Patty, you had a question about like the workers' comp and homeowners insurance, thinking that might be covered.
Well, just generally so you can help anybody that is a small business owner.
Absolutely, yes.
And how do they interface with you, and what do they pay, and how does that work?
Well, there really isn't a fee up front. It would just be for me to kind of sit down with them, talk with them, understand their circumstances, what their business is, how it's structured, and see if there are any gaps in their personal homeowners coverage or auto coverage.
Because you're independent, so you represent a bunch of different companies.
Exactly.
Okay, and you'll just get paid by whatever company you use.
Exactly. So typically, real estate people, as an example, they have a real estate business, but they may not have a business policy for their automobile. But
Guilty as charged.
your homeowner or your personal auto carrier may not extend coverage if you're doing any driving for business-related matters.
Oh, wow. And a real estate agent is always driving around.
Ouch.
Exactly.
Wow.
Typically, your personal auto policy will just cover you for commuting back and forth to your office, but not beyond that.
Really? Is that the typical?
That is the typical personal auto policy.
Wow. I mean, gosh, I think almost everybody who drives a car, unless you're just going to and from the office, if I'm, I don't do like what Patty does, but every once in a while I might go to an appointment, a client, this or that. That's a little scary to think that.
It is very scary.
So how do you compensate for that? What do you do?
Well,
what would I do?
two things. First of all, if you're working for another company and you're using your car for business related, make sure that they have what we call hired non-owned auto coverage on their policy. That will extend coverage to you while you're out there working for them. If you are independent working for yourself, then you need to find out, is there an endorsement I could put on my policy for business use?
Okay, that would be through the existing
Through your
policy.
Existing auto insurance.
Exactly.
Okay.
They may or may not have that.
Okay.
And if they don't have that, then you would have to either switch to a personal lines carrier that does provide it, or get a separate commercial auto policy.
Wow.
How much does that generally run?
Well, commercial auto policies are typically more expensive than your personal.
Yeah.
Reason being,
I got to think they got to ask you, how many miles you drive.
or are you driving customers around?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
How much miles will you be driving?
Wow.
Where will you be traveling to?
This is something people don't know.
Yeah.
I've been a
that's
real estate
true.
broker for 30 years and never heard that one.
And you
Yeah.
don't realize it till there's a claim, and then your carrier
Yeah.
says, we don't have coverage for
How
it.
often have you seen that in your experience?
Far too often,
Wow.
and it's over a dozen times in the past 10 years, which cost people money.
I mean,
So example,
yeah.
somebody, I'm saying, I was driving around with a client. So my policy doesn't cover it, what?
Yeah, well, typically, if there's a claim, there's going to be a claims adjuster who's going to question you. They're going to ask a lot of details, where you're going, what you're doing. They're very exhaustive when they question you.
Sure.
And once they hear that were, furthering your business or driving customers around, they probably won't say anything, but they'll probably get a letter saying, well, we're going to deny coverage.
Wow.
But then
then
you're naked with.
Then you're naked, exactly. You will be responsible for the damages.
Wow, personally responsible.
Yes.
Whoa.
That's the whole idea. You get insurance, and then if your homeowner's coverage isn't going to probably cover you on that either.
This is shocking.
So,
And what typically happens with your personal lines insurance, you get a policy, you might have got it 20 years ago, and you really don't do an update every year. They just kind of renew it,
Yeah.
but your circumstances have changed.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So have a policy review every year with your agent just to make sure.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I'm taking this exact video when I'm going to record this
Yeah.
and send it to my insurance person. No explanation needed. Listen to this.
Yeah.
absolutely, that's so important.
And you deal. So you obviously deal with auto insurance too.
Correct.
Okay. And then do you cover just all the major carriers?
Well,
Or
as
something.
I'm an independent
Yeah.
broker, so I do write all carriers except for the captive companies. There's
Okay.
companies that only have their own agents,
Yeah.
like a State Farm and Allstate, those types of folks.
Gotcha.
But there's many other carriers than those people.
Yeah. What's funny is the rare times when I've been in an auto accident, when I've been in with people who were, let's say, less than stellar people, they've always had these really off-color insurance companies. Ones that go, I've never even heard of that one, or oh my God, I can tell they're probably just
Exactly.
the cheapest absolute bottom line. Because in theory, you either have to have auto insurance or you have to have a minimum $10,000 coverage, some minimal coverage.
Yeah.
It doesn't really mean anything.
And when you do come across an inexpensive policy, all policies are not created equal. So you really need to read the fine print. You get what you pay for.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those, oh, great, saved a bunch of money, but then when you needed it, you didn't want
I
that.
recently had a situation where I was a passenger in an Uber
Yeah.
and got rear-ended.
Oh.
And so it was obviously the driver behind. Uber
Yeah.
washed their hands of it. And so I was dealing directly with the Mercury insurance, and
Yeah.
they are horrible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't mention names, but all over the internet, you can look that up.
Yeah, that's I hear you there. Okay, tell you what, before we continue on, let me give another commercial break here. Second trivia question: how many throwing events are there in a decathlon? So we all know a decathlon, deck meaning 10, right? There's 10 events, but how many of them are throwing versus non-throwing? Okay, call 888-912-1190. If you're the first caller with the correct answer, you're going to win that tanning certificate. Don't touch that dial. The best investment. We'll be right back.
I don't know. 6 or 7.
All right. It's funny. Yeah, I was going to say, who mentioned Mercury, but it was you know what though? That was one of the companies. They're awful.
I knew you were thinking
they're
that.
terrible.
They're the worst.
And even with a State Farm, who you think's a pretty
Yeah, they
good
have the
one,
best reputation.
but say you lend your car to your daughter,
Mhm.
she goes out, and then she has too much to drink, and then she lets her friend use her car,
Makes sense so
and
much.
they get in an accident.
Oh.
State Farm is not going to cover you.
They
Because
cover
you
your
only gave
daughter,
permission
but
to your
the
daughter to drive.
Yeah, interesting.
Permissive use issues. So
Wow.
Yeah,
I think it's good. What you just brought was amazing. So
Yeah, that's a very
if there's
good point.
anything else that people want to know, that's good.
or if
Yeah.
you go out of state, some policies will just automatically drop to the minimum limit of that state, even though you have higher
okay.
coverage.
Bring that up, because what we want to do is then be able to say, how do people get a hold of you? Because obviously they're if they don't know this, their agent probably hadn't talked to them about it.
We want
right?
to tweak them. I'm getting tweaked already.
All right, here we go. Then we'll move on to get some new stuff. Welcome back to the Best of Investing one more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Patty Cohen of Pacific Union International. Second trivia question: how many throwing events are there in a decathlon? Anybody? So we know there's
7.
10. There's just the opposite. There's 3.
3, okay.
Yeah,
The
shot put
javelin, the shot put,
and the discus.
and all the
The discus, yeah, but that's one everyone forgets. All right, we are in the studio with Tom Santamorena, who is an insurance expert. And Tom, just before we are coming back on, you were mentioning that there's a few other scary things about auto insurance that a lot of us don't know about.
You really
Give us
need
an example.
You really need to know the fine print. Every carrier has different contracts. An example could be one company, they'll write a policy that it's okay for you to give permissive use for someone to use your car. Say you have a child, you give them the car, it's old enough to drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's fine, they'll be covered. But if for some reason you have a daughter, you give her the car, they go out, she's not comfortable driving, has a few drinks, and ask a friend who's the designated driver to drive your car and gets in an accident, they won't be covered because you never gave permission to the friend to drive your car.
Now, is that automatic or is that a maybe they don't cover it, maybe they won't?
That be from carrier to carrier. There is
Okay.
a large carrier out there that a lot of people have coverage with. That's their stance.
Okay, and can you buy insurance like for the friends for your daughter's friend? I mean, how would you? But besides telling your daughter, listen, you're the only one who is allowed to drive. You're the only one who's covered. Is there any insurance that one can buy for stuff like that?
There are some carriers that do that.
Oh, okay.
So again, that was an exception to one of the carriers
Sure.
who most people feel is a good
Good
rider.
company, yeah.
Yeah.
And what about a personal umbrella policy? Is that where that would come in? Where basically you just get sued for like the sort of the catch-all?
Well, if your underlying policy does not cover it, your umbrella is not going to cover it.
Oh, so the umbrella is really just kind of an expansion
Correct.
Of the
dollar
limits.
amounts.
Okay.
Oh, okay. What if
I have
want
an
to get
umbrella. I forgot
yeah,
about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And what if I want just a policy for like anything, act of God, whatever? They have policies like that. I want to cover for anything that I didn't know I was not covered for.
I'm sure there'd be a company out there that would write it, but you would spend a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
It would just not be cost
Gotcha.
effective.
Like sort of a Lloyd's of London type of, hey, we have no idea what's going to happen to you, but we'll cover you for $1 million
Yeah.
just in case the rock falls on you, something crazy.
What are the
The,
odds?
the
Wow.
interesting thing, when you look at insurance policies, 3/4 of the policy explains what it doesn't cover.
Yeah.
The exclusions.
Yeah, I can imagine because they want to be very specific about, listen, we told you this was not covered.
And everyone knows Americans don't read.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, how many of us really read
The
ins and
yada,
outs?
yada, yada.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why we have the insurance person like Tom.
There you go.
Okay, so, and Tom, I know we'll get back to you on this, but in the meantime, why don't you give the audience your contact information if they say, hey, can you look over my policy and, am I doing a good job? What do we need?
Absolutely. It's just my last name, which is a long one.
Okay.
My email, SANTAMORENA @insurer.com.
Okay.
Phone number 415-377-6163.
All right. Okay. Well, you know what? Your name, at least, it's phonetically correct. Santamorena.
There you go.
Yeah, very easy.
That's quite a website, insurer.com.
Yeah.
You would have think somebody else would have had that.
Beat them to it.
Yeah. Good job.
Maybe insurance.com is taken or something, but very good. All right. So, Patty, moving on to you. You were in the paper yet again.
Yeah, front page of the paper, just basically reporting on what's going on year over year. It's an interesting market.
Yes.
It feels like it's the tabletop right now.
Yeah.
Meaning that, what do you mean tabletop?
Yeah.
It's felt like this, and we've talked about it a lot of times. It felt like, is this the top? I mean,
Yeah.
our bottom was 2012. We've had a rapid rise for 6 years now. What's happening? And every kind of winter, summer, it kind of feels like I think we're at the top, and
Mhm.
every spring it just races. Well, right now I really do see that it feels like the top of a table.
I
So it's
totally agree.
Yeah.
Because I've even noticed that there are some houses that, just even looking, let's say on Zillow, okay, where they, shows price reduction.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, price reduction. That's usually, lately we've been hearing about overbidding.
Yes.
And now it's like either people just way overpriced their house
Yes.
or things have slowed down.
Exactly. And that's what we're seeing more price reductions, and that's what happens is it's sort of what I call a schizophrenic market. At the top, the expression pigs get slaughtered.
Yep.
So what happens is if sellers are pricing on that same trajectory of going way, way up, then that's where you see the price reductions. So then buyers looking at this market
Uh-huh.
say, okay, wow, That one went 10% over asking. That one took a 7% price reduction.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I'm confused. I'm watching it. And that's
And
when
doing
things
nothing.
start. I'm doing nothing.
Okay, so rather than just going in and saying, well, things are topsy-turvy, I'm just going to put in a low bid.
Yeah.
They're just sitting by the sidelines.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's a true free enterprise system
Yeah.
because you know, sellers price at their kitchen table. And they make it up. I want, I want $2 million and the house might be worth $1.5 million. So, the market does tell the truth. So what's happening is, though, you're getting more sellers pricing at their kitchen table or thinking that theirs is worth more than it is. And so buyers are getting scared. And we're at meaning a tabletop market is that we're at the top of that left-hand leg of the table. And we're going to see a plateau for quite a few years. So prices aren't going to go up. They're not going to go down. It's just going to be level.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this before on the show that, if you see like 4 or 5% increase, that's a nice, healthy, norm. It's when it gets crazy, 15, 20% every year over year, and it's like not sustainable.
Exactly.
It's better to sustain. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's an affordability plateau, meaning that if prices go down 5%, demand will go up 10%. So they're still out there.
Huh.
Buyers are still out there because net, we have more people, we have a lack of inventory.
Well, I was going to say, there's another big fire going on in Lake County, and how many houses were lost? I don't know.
I don't know.
And Lake County is obviously a little different than Santa Rosa, but, taking 5,000 houses off the market when things were hot to begin with is really creating a shortage.
Yeah, and millennials are getting in the game. For a while they weren't buying, so that's happening. And then we've got the baby boomers doing a move down kind of market.
Yeah.
So if you've got a single story home, they fly in.
I was gonna say with the elderly people, they want a single story home.
And that's what young people want too, for different reasons. The mid-century modern, the dwell home, walking out level shape to the backyard. That's what everybody wants.
You want to hear a funny story? I was walking in the neighborhood, and this guy who was a plumber said that he was working on this house. They bought an Eichler, but it was all tricked out. The person paid thousands of dollars to get rid of all the high-end stuff and put in all the crappy 1950s stuff.
Wow.
They sold a $36,000 Thermador for $1,000 to get rid of it, to put an old crappy one in. Just like
Yeah.
Okay.
There's even newsletters about Eichlers.
Yeah.
There's fanatic friends.
Okay, so here's our last trivia question here. Until World War II, solid blocks of what was commonly used as currency in Siberia? All right, this was all the way up until World War II. Call 888-912-1190. Be the first caller with the correct answer. You'll win that tanning certificate. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back.
Solid blocks, I don't know.
Solid blocks is currency?
Yeah. At first you think solid blocks of ice, but then you go Siberia, they don't need ice.
They don't need ice. I don't know. Gold, I don't know. Obviously, it's not gold.
Not gold.
I mean, then my first thought, I went to India a few years back, and they have literally solid blocks of cow dung they make their houses out of. And it's not like some random thing. Like along the side of the road, you just see it. It's hard as a rock. That's the roof.
Does it smell like what
No.
you think?
No, because it's hard as a rock.
Hard as a rock,
Yeah.
I wonder how they get it hard like that. Just let it sit out
Sun.
there.
It just sits there.
Yeah.
They don't do anything. It's all like big mounds and discs. Anyway.
Surprised that hasn't come to here since we're digging into that kind of
It's
stuff.
very green, as they say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So this is our one long segment of 9 minutes.
Well, I got, just talking about affordability index and just a little bit more on that,
All right, do that, and then I got to make a little pitch for private money.
Okay.
And
Not say my name.
Oh yeah, that's right. First. Ready? Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Edward Brown here, along with Patty Cohen and our special guest Tom Santamorena. Until World War II, solid blocks of what was commonly used as currency in Siberia?
Can't be too large because they're
Correct.
currying it.
Yeah, that's
Currencing it.
Currency. You ready?
Yeah, I'm interested.
Tea.
Oh, wow. Makes sense.
Which I could understand, you want to be hot tea, and I thought that was interesting. I don't know where I come up with these things. I just make them up as I go along. No. All right, so Patty, you have a couple more comments on the housing.
Well, yeah, in general, I think a lot of people, especially in the Bay Area, their net worth is tied up in their house. So people really want to know what's going on with my net worth. And I think it's a tabletop market, not going anywhere for the next 3 to 5 years, up and down a little bit. Affordability index. And so here's, four important things when you put these facts together. You really start saying, okay, it makes sense. So, for example, just in the second quarter, the housing affordability falls to a decade low. So that once that affordability index is under 10%, things get dicey. It happened in '89. It happened the next level. But and then California's home prices last month climbed to a new all-time high.
Yep.
At the same time, California's unemployment rate maintains record low in May. So we've got a strong job market, and we've got really high wages, but the affordability is still the lowest in the country and the lowest that we've seen. And then we have historically low interest rates, but also interest rates that are predicted to go up throughout the year. So it's kind of mixed messages. Net, it's still the most desirable place to live.
Yeah.
So,
but I can see that where you have interest rates going up because the economy is getting stronger, but then that makes it less affordability even more for what you can afford for a house. So
maybe prices will go down.
Yeah.
And it's a strong job market. But
less inventory, you still have to, so you drive it up a bit, and I guess it depends on, again,
supply and demand.
Supply and demand, but that's that affordability part.
Yeah, and then what happens, what I said before, is if prices go down 5%, demand's going to go up 10%. So, we're not, the sky's not falling, and it's not going to rise that much. It really makes sense when you look at the numbers.
Ergo, the tabletop that you were
Tabletop.
So, Patty, you are a wealth of information. How do people get a hold of you?
Oh, my name is Patty Cohn, Cohn. I'm with Pacific Union Real Estate. I'm based in Marin County. My phone number is 415-722-4842 or bestmarinagent.com.
There you go. And even though she's in Marin, she's always willing to help people with questions. So.
Exactly. I do a lot in San Francisco, Napa.
Yeah, exactly. So Mark and Nam are not here, but we just want to give a little update on the Pacific Private Money Fund. Last month's distribution was 7.8%, compounded 8.08%. Average loan to value is only 52%. Some of the loans that are coming in are very interesting. You get this one couple who can't qualify for a regular bank loan yet because they don't have enough money sitting on the sidelines that's seasoned. So they're asking for a refinance of their existing low first mortgage, pulling out an extra $100,000 that'll just sit in the bank for a month or two so that the bank can go look and say, ooh, you got a lot of money sitting in the bank. And then they'll go ahead and say, okay, now you qualify for the refinance of the loan. Because, it's like, really? Is that how they think? But okay.
You pretty much can't get a conventional loan unless you don't need one.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Just met with a gentleman just before we recorded the show. Same kind of situation as typical. This guy owns a bunch of rental properties, has rental income, but he's an older gentleman. He was turned down by the bank because they say, you don't make any income. He says, wait a minute, look at my tax return. He goes, yeah, I'm retired, but I've got rental income. Nope, sorry, it doesn't count. And he owns his house free and clear, and he's looking to downsize just a little bit, not much. So what if he finds the house that he wants, Pacific Private Money can lend him 100% of the target acquisition price because the prices are about the same, and he owns the other one free and clear. So I'll give you an example. He owns $1.5 million house free and clear. He wants to buy a house for $1.3 million. Well, if you lend him the $1.3 million and you take a first mortgage on both houses, you're less than 50% loan to value.
Gotcha.
So it's a very, very conservative loan, and he'll eventually sell the $1.5 million house and pay off the loan. And
it's brilliant.
He's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's driving the lending rules at these banks?
Mr. Daw and Mr. Frank.
Yeah. Their government.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I wrote an article about this that got published a couple of months ago about why banks are not making conservative loans, and a big part of it has to do with the fact that you got these auditors coming in, and they look at the file, and they question various things about, wait a minute, this guy doesn't have a job, or, he can't afford 2 houses, yada, yada. And they decide, somewhat arbitrarily, to put certain loans on what they call the watch list or the cautionary list, or, whatever you want to call it. And what happens then is then the bank is forced to hold more reserves than they would like. So, banks, quote, invent or create money. For every $1,000, they can lend out like $16,000 because they're backed by the Fed. Well, what happens when you tell them, I'm sorry, you can't, that $1,000 you have in deposits, you got to give half of it back, or put it aside for reserves. Now they can't lend out 16,000, they can only lend out 8,000. And so they say, you know what, it's not even worth it for us to do this loan that's very conservative because we know how the auditors are going to be. Or the other way is they have loans that they are not having in their portfolio. They're just packaging them and selling them. Well, the buyer says very strict guidelines. You got to have a FICO score of this.
Yep.
You got to have this. And so if you don't fit exactly with that box,
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it to them. So even though they don't think the loan will go bad, it's got too much hair on it for them. But Pacific Private Money doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So they're completely independent. They still have to follow certain guidelines, regulatory for Dodd-Frank and all that, but they are portfolio lenders, so they can decide whatever loan they think is appropriate. And that's the reason why out of 1,600, 1,800 loans or whatever, they've had 0 losses.
Yeah.
Because very, very conservative.
And of course, yes, they are going to pay, the buyer's going to pay a higher rate, but there's no other choice. They go there when there's no other choice, but you get excellent service, you get the loan done, you can get it done in 10 days, 5 days, whatever.
Yeah. And the borrower's going to pay higher interest, but it's only going to keep the loan for maybe 30 or 60 days.
Exactly.
So it's like, you paid 9%, 9%. But if you only paid for 2 months,
who cares?
It's not that big a deal. It's the points that you have to pay. I'm not thinking, I don't want to pay points, but okay, you know what? If I don't have to move twice, and I get the house of my dreams, and you leave it all in a hassle, and there's not as much paperwork. There's still legal paperwork you have to do, and you still have a mortgage on the house and stuff like that. But it's a great way to go.
And also, don't forget, as a buyer, you're competing for a house, and there's 3 or 4 offers. When you go with a private money loan, Pacific Money Mortgage, you are effectively making an all-cash offer. You don't even have to tell them you're getting a loan.
Pacific Private Money can provide that money in very, very short time. 10 days is not unreasonable at all for them. They fill out paperwork, and they'll get, if they don't get an appraisal, they get what they call a broker price opinion. In this case, the 2 properties are in Marin, and we know the area really well. It's not too hard to make a decision on that. 50% loan to value. So call them at 415-883-2150 if either you need a loan quickly, or if you want to invest money and earn over 7.5 to close to 8% interest. All right. We already asked our 3 trivia questions. So we're just going to cut to our last commercial break. And when we do, we're going to have some closing comments. So don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing is going to be right back. Having fun?
Good. How are we doing here?
Okay, so our last segment's only 5 minutes. We usually cut out at about 4 minutes because I've got some thoughts for the day and our outro, as they say. So what do we want to cover in the last 4 minutes? Anybody's ball game.
Recording on radio.
Have any fun stories for us, Tom?
Sorry.
Well, there's plenty of fun stories.
Okay. Yeah. One that you can tell in 2 or 3 minutes?
Let's see, how much time we have? I'm sorry.
About 4 minutes.
Putting out all the time.
Oh, I know.
Workers' comp fraud is always a fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's
that's a good one.
All right. Let's see if I have anything
Why
else.
premiums in California are so expensive.
There you go. I'll lead in with that. Why are premiums?
Why do I
special?
specialize in workers' comp?
What is that?
Why do I specialize in workers' comp insurance? Because of that.
Oh, okay. All right, ready? Here we go.
Okay.
Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Patty Cohen and our special guest, Tom Santamorena. Now, we already asked our trivia question. So, Tom, I'm going to ask you, why are California workers' comp premiums so high?
Yeah, we're in California, paying about $12 billion a year in workers' comp premiums. 84% of business owners say workers' comp cost is the cost most negatively impacting their business. And there's a lot of funny stuff going on.
Yep.
California is known for being very claimant-friendly venue. It's almost like a welfare benefit to on a workers' comp. And there is so much fraud that is so easily perpetrated. People don't have health insurance, so they hurt themselves on a Sunday playing softball.
Yeah.
But they don't have health insurance, so what do? Well, Monday morning, I drag my butt into work and then say I had an on-the-job injury. Nobody witnessed it.
Yeah.
And they get away with it.
And since it's a no-fault type of thing, I mean, unless you uncover the fraud, there's nothing you can do.
Exactly.
So it's funny, these people, they don't have the health insurance, but they're shrewd enough and opportunist enough to think about that.
Oh yeah, word gets around. And I mean, and that's just that case, but then there's also the case of how they milk it throughout the process.
Exactly. And then that's, we call that malingering.
Yeah.
Somebody does go out, maybe it is a legitimate workers' comp claim, but now they're getting the taste of the good life and, just at home. Or maybe they have another job that they're working. That's really what happens. That's more so the case.
So they're collecting on workers' comp, and then they go to a different job.
Exactly. They might be doing some mechanic work at home when they worked at a garage before, or just moonlighting somewhere else.
Yeah. So sometimes you see those exposés of somebody following around.
Yeah.
So how often does that happen, and when does it happen?
I don't think it happens quite enough.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time, look at the insurance company's point of view. It's easier just to pay the claim instead of trying to fight it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to pay money to an investigator and all that.
Absolutely.
And then sue them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to fight it.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're just going to raise the premiums on employers, and employers really don't have. I mean, how many insurance companies offer workers' comp?
There's probably 100 in California, but not everybody writes the same risks. There might be companies that just focus on contractors, or some warehouse, some hotels, or just white collar work. So when I, normally when I quote, there's probably about 5 or 6 carriers that I find that have an appetite for a particular business.
Interesting. And then you work for the client versus working for the insurance company.
Correct. As a broker, I represent the person buying the insurance, not the insurance company.
Okay. And then, do you ever have issues where an insurance company will just say, sorry, we're just not interested?
Oh, yeah, that happens quite a bit. If it's a new company, they don't have a loss history, they don't know, a high-risk business, or if they've had a lot of losses.
Yeah. So
what happens in that case, the state has the state compensation insurance fund, which is like your last stop for insurance if no one else is going to take you.
Is it always more expensive?
And I wouldn't say it's always more, but in most cases it is. And a lot more difficult to work with, and
the coverage,
and not the best when it comes to claim processing, and it may take you 6 weeks to get the policy approved. And
we need reform. We like you, but we don't like your business.
Yeah, people do not like insurance.
No.
All right, thanks again, Tom Santamorena, for
pleasure.
joining us. And Patty, yet again, always a pleasure to have you. Here's our thoughts for the day. Success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of constantly applying basic fundamentals.
That's true.
Isn't that true? You'll like this one even more. Plenty of people miss their share of happiness, not because they never found it, but because they didn't stop to enjoy it.
Very true.
The roses.
That's right, Confucius.
Yes.
No, I don't know if that's Confucius. Edward Brown said that. All right, so we are going to cut out today. Make sure you tune in next week to The Best of Investing. Why? Because we're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best
of
investing. So long.
All right.
And that's so fast.
So much going on.
Now,
So do you know Brian Beaver and Kathy
Yeah, of
Brady?
course.
They're
Yeah.
on my Rotary Club.
Oh, they're great. I've known them actually 30 years ago.
They're such
Believe it or
great
not,
people.
Kathleen was in the business, and I bought a house 30 years ago, and she did my loan.
Really?
Absolutely. And
Wow.
her mom was a good, well-known mortgage broker. She passed away a couple of years ago, and Brian got in the business later. But Kathleen's like 47, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I forget how old she is,
Yeah.
but this was 30 years ago. Well, okay, so she's probably 50 or early 50s. Yeah, it's crazy.
And how about her plight with her son this past year?
I know. I haven't heard an update. He's fine.
He's great.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
And we have, let's see here, this thing has to run for another 11 minutes because
Oh, yeah.
I have to run it for exactly between 56 to 59 minutes, and so far we only have 45 minutes. So
Okay.
know that we're still streaming
Still
live, and
streaming.
we'll keep our
You'll behave.
yes, exactly. What am I trying to say here? We'll keep our decorum.
Yes.
It's such-
Mind our P's and Q's.
That's right. Keep our
Mind our-
language clean.
It's minor matter,
And
you
no
don't mind, it doesn't matter.
And her son's actually off to, I think, Spain, doing like an exchange student for a full year.
Okay.
And to think about a year ago, we didn't know he was going to be alive.
Right. I mean,
What
I
happened,
think it's a testosterone, and I think because I have a 20-year-old, a year and a half ago, he calls me at noon and says, I think I have to go. Can you take me to the emergency room? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Why? Like really
scary.
casual. He goes, well, I went to work last night and I told him that I flipped over in a car 3 times, but I still got to work today. And they said, you should probably go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
I think you have brain damage. You could have brain damage. Like, and I go, yeah, I'll pick you up. I'll take you to the emergency room. And he was fine. But
Flips the car.
well, he wasn't driving, he was a passenger, but he was still
Still.
flipped 3 times.
Yeah.
Alcohol, testosterone, that age. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now,
Be
Kathleen's boys, her 2 sons were in the car, going to school in the morning.
Oh, that's right. They weren't. there's no
Paradise
alcohol.
Drive or
Paradise
something.
Drive. There's no alcohol. Yeah.
Went off a hill, rolled, fell 70 feet, landed on top of the roof of the house. The younger son just had like a broken arm.
They're
He
nothing.
walked away, but the other one, he was in a coma,
Yeah.
broken everything.
Oh my God.
See, the thing is, it's like your frontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 25.
25.
So you've got
That's it.
testosterone just surging, and that let's say when it's surging, they're not thinking straight, and you've got
That's
the
true.
young male, and you've got
Yep.
24. So they're invincible. They do stupid stuff. They
I
jump
remember
off
those
buildings.
days.
Yeah. So yeah, my son, he was absolutely fine. Clearly fine. He went to work, and his boss, who cares about him, goes, "You should probably go to the hospital and check it out." He goes, "Yeah, you think so?"
Yeah.
And he's fine. And it was a male nurse, and he said, "Men learn by doing. Women learn because they get it and they don't do
Watch.
stuff. Men have to do it."
I thought men learn by women telling them.
Well, that's true.
By what?
By women telling them.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's from reading,
Exactly.
that's from reading
That's
the
another
book,
kind of learning.
Women are from Venus, Men are, remember the
Exactly.
book, Women from Venus, Men are Wrong?
Yeah. All right. Well, how about this? If a man says something in the forest and there's no woman there to hear him, is he still wrong? Yes. I said that joke in mixed company once, and I had some guys in the back booing, and I said, "Don't you understand? That's a little bit more about the craziness of women than about men.
Good, that's an interesting point.
It really is.
That's a
No,
very
they're not
interesting point.
wrong all the time." But if you want to get along with women, you say yes, dear.
It's that
But that's
simple.
about the craziness of women. It has nothing to do with men.
How long have you been married?
Well, totally, 2 marriages.
Oh.
It's probably 30 years.
Wow.
There you go. So he's learned something.
Yes.
He's learned to say yes, dear. Sometimes, not all the time.
Well,
but
the second marriage I've learned.
yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens.
That's what I hear. At the second marriage, people learn a little bit.
It's not
Yeah.
worth fighting about.
Well,
You pick and choose your battles.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, I do a lot of expired listings, so there's an expression: if you can't be the firstborn or the second spouse, you want to be the third agent.
There you go.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Firstborn, second spouse, third agent.
Mhm. Either one, I'll take them all. One combination. Column A, column B.
Gosh.
Where'd you get that one from?
I don't know. That just rolls around. The realtor thing. Old time realtor years ago.
An old time realtor.
Yeah, like I mean, I was just new in the business. It was 30 years ago that somebody said that, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. Do expireds. If you
Yeah.
can't be,
Yeah. Well, because if they're expired, that meant that the broker just wasn't able to sell it for whatever reason.
yeah, means they want to sell. If you cold call, do you want to sell your house? No, you don't take it personally, but most people are not selling their house. But somebody that just expired wants to sell their house.
Yeah.
It didn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm here to help you.
There you go.
So then you take that from the, well, I guess it'd be a little harder in insurance where someone was denied insurance. Of course, like on life insurance, if you're denied, it's really tough because now you're an MIB.
You're in
You're in the system, and now they go, well, we checked you out, and we don't want to write you either.
Yeah, exactly. It's all.
Sometimes you get table rated, and well, maybe we can do a better rating, but
no.
It's kind of rare. Yeah, it's tough too because it's like when you meet somebody and you talk about insurance, you got to let them know ahead of time if you really think there's an issue. Say, listen, there's a risk in going for this now rather than go ahead and lose your 100 pounds.
Actually,
right, and keep it off for over a year.
Good point.
Right. In fact, I had that one time where this guy, we got him insurance, and the question was, has your weight changed much in the last 6 months or something? He goes, yeah, man, I lost 75 pounds.
You would think that's good.
Yeah, and it's like, no, that's not good. You would have been better off to just kind of
say no.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because they do too much fluctuation, and that's not good for your health.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I thought you meant like instantly, like people that get gastric bypass surgery.
Yeah.
Without walking out the door, they're off diabetic medications. They're off a lot of medications just walking out the door.
Yeah.
But
well, insurance are like loans.
Yeah.
You can only get it when you don't
need it. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it's very, very similar. Yeah.
Speaking of that, you should also tell people for insurance that if you've got a claim right before you're going to put your house on the market or within a year, especially if it has anything to do with water, you might not want to make that claim because you might not be able to get insurance. Yeah. You disclose it, it's right on the form, and then sometimes, and even if they don't disclose it, then you know how it works. It's like the buyer tries to get insurance. It's like not on that house. They had a water
claim. Because they'll pull that up. They'll see that in the index.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Wow.
Are we still on here?
We've got just 5 minutes. Sometimes see, here's the problem: is that we have to record for 56 minutes. But the show itself is only 38 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they put together the music and commercials and eat up all that other time.
Yeah.
So we have 17 minutes and 45 seconds.
So they edit everything you send to them to fit into their.
Well, so what happens? I send them the 5 files that I saved, which are just us talking. Right. Sometimes it was 6 minutes. Sometimes it was 8 minutes. And then I send it via WeTransfer, one of those sending things, and the station now has it, and so they'll take those 5, and what they'll do is they'll put some music and introductory stuff at the beginning, play this, then they'll put some commercials here, play this, and then boom, we got a 1 hour show.
Oh, okay.
So you do it good. You've been doing this a long time.
Gosh,
because you've
August
got the whole thing. It's crazy. It's obvious.
How did you get introduced to doing this?
I helped a financial advisor with the last part of his book with the mortgage part of things because he couldn't find it anywhere. This guy's the man for research. And then he said, hey, Edward, I don't know if you know this, but I have a radio show. I said, I didn't know that. Well, he was on KNBR, and it was a morning business show on KNBR on Saturdays. He said, you want to be my guest? We talk about what's going on in the market and interest rates and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, 2010 was still pretty bad. So it was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But, it's not happy out there.
No.
And
it's really bad.
on the drive back, he said, Edward, you did a really good job. And he says, I got to tell you the truth. He says, I live in Novato. The station's in San Francisco because we were driving in San Francisco. And he said, I work so long. My wife hates the fact that I'm off every single Saturday doing the radio show. Would you be okay about co-hosting? Because the other co-host was down in LA. Then he would patch him in, via his cell phone. Would you want to you don't get paid for it, but I had a lot of fun, get to meet a lot of interesting people and all that. And so I started co-hosting, and he kind of slowly went into I pretty much was the man.
Yeah.
And then what happened was a few months into it, his sponsors had already decided they were going to shut it down come April of 2000. Actually, I did that on October 2009. And by April 2010, they had decided, it's really expensive time to pay for it, and they weren't getting enough traction from it. And so I knew we were going to be off the air. And so I thought, well, gosh, I really like this. I like radio, I'm good at it and all that. So I actually had seen an ad for Mark's company for doing hard money loans. And I go, oh, I know the business.
Oh, you didn't even know Mark at the
I
time?
know Mark at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I called him up and I said, hey, you know what? I got this radio show that I was on. We're off. I'm not really doing hard money anymore, but I can help you in your business.
Wow.
He goes, well, I actually pay to be on a radio show, but I'm willing to talk to you, right? So I go up there, introduce myself, and Mark was paying a lot of money to have this much portion on a lousier station. And he said, well, here's a guy's card from Fox News Radio who's been trying to, woo me to have my own show, blah, blah, blah. I'm too busy. He goes, listen, you seem like a nice guy. We didn't know each other. He says, hey, why don't you see what you can work out with him and make me a proposal, right? So I called the guy and worked out a deal where I said, this is a slam dunk. I said, Mark, I know we don't know each other, and I'm not stealing your business because I'm not really doing that much anymore. I'm going to help your business. But I said, here's the deal. You're going to be paying less money, be a co-host all the time, and on a better station. I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah.
So he said, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And so in August 2010,
you started doing it.
We started doing it.
And you got smart. We're not going to San Francisco. We're doing it right here in San Francisco.
Well, no, that's okay. So in the beginning, we actually did go to San Francisco for over a year.
Yeah.
And Mark he lived in Nevada too, and he said, is there any way that we can pre-record the show?
Absolutely.
Because he says, I just can't go in every Saturday to me, my time was okay, but for him. And so I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I had gotten in touch with Dominican University. So for a while we were recording there because I used to teach income tax there. Yeah. And so we recorded at Dominican University, and that was working out fine until they said, hey, Edward, unfortunately, we need the studio all the time now for the students. You can't record. I said, well, can you help me out? And so the professor was very, very nice. He said, listen, I'll tell you what, I will show you exactly what you need to do to record, as long as the station will allow you to send in a recording. And they did. I said,
brilliant.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, you nailed it on every level.
Oh, it just worked out really well. Because we can record anytime we want. Midnight, boom, done.
Yeah. I remember it was probably about 8 or 9 years ago or so that there was a whole thing like